It gives me immense pleasure to introduce this eminent personality, Mr. Bazil Sheikh, sir, PhD in banking, author and former central banker. He has served for 30 years with RBI in different capacities in areas such as foreign exchange, precious metals, rural credit, government and human resources. He has also written many books. He was a member of the Secretarial Standard Board. He was a member on various committees of Nabard, SEBI, Government of India. We have such an eminent personality amongst us today. I would like to request Avinash sir and Ashok sir to felicitate Bazil sir on behalf of Banco and Galaxy Enma. ही जे गिफ्ट्स आहेत तर ते एक पुस्तक त्याच्यात आहे आणि एक दुसरं जे गिफ्ट आहे ते टॅनमनी इथं दिलेलं आहे टॅन्टमनी इथं दिलेलं आहे. थँक्यू फॉर द गिफ्ट. Thank you, sir. I would like to call upon stage Shri Yogesh Sarma, sir. As you all know, he is the CEO of NAFCUP Delhi. It's an honor to have him here for the annual summit. We would like to felicitate you, sir. To request Honorable Bazil sir to enlighten us with your valuable words.
Good afternoon. At the outset, exceedingly grateful to Banco and the organizing team for this opportunity to be in your midst today. It's indeed a privilege. Over here, I acknowledge the presence of very eminent and senior bankers, cooperation members, resource personnel, as well as former, very close and very dear former colleagues, and all of you over here who have given a part of your lives to the cause of cooperation. I understand this is the 10th annual event over here, and we have over here almost 200 people are participating in this event. Assuming an average of 20 years of cooperative banking experience, we have almost 4,000 years of experience in this one area over here, and it amounts to a great clearinghouse of information. And I think recognizing this, the members, the organizers have also arranged for an open session which can leverage this, this resource which we have with us, all of you who are the resource over here, which we have over here today. Now, our job just now is to set the pace of the deliberations, okay? And what we are going to do is no details, we'll only touch upon some broad perspectives. We'll raise some broad issues and some questions over here. And the simplest way of doing it in some ways is to do a review of 2022. And over there, we will see what, very often they say, the good news and the bad news. We won't say good news and the bad news. We will say, well, what are the anxieties? What are the concerns from the review of 22? And what are the areas of hope? What are the areas of light? What are the areas of optimism? So this is roughly, and we will see if we can raise certain questions in the thing. So we'll just do a quick review. We start with a little bit of let us put the anxiety and the concerns and the issues. We finish that off fast, and then we can go on to areas of hope, optimism, and light. Okay? So, you take one of the news items which is there. It says, there is license cancellations. Will 2023 be any better? Now, it doesn't matter. The idea is that some of our colleagues, some of our fellow bankers have been pushed out of, do not exist today. That is where the concern is. And the way you get that intimation is you get some horrible letter over there, and the letter says the bank, with its present financial position, will be unable to pay its depositors in full, etc., and public interest. Now, there are two issues over here. One is that, there's an issue of solvency, there is an issue of public interest. Anyway, we are not interested in the numbers, we are not interested in anything. All that we are saying is that there is a certain challenge. And what is the challenge? The challenge is, which all of you over here are key management personnel, you all are board of directors, you all are, people looking after policy. So the key concerns, one of the key concerns is going to be, focus will be on liquidity, solvency, balance sheet management. These are will be one area of concern looking forward to members of urban cooperative banks. Okay. Next area. When we just take a quick look at what is happening over a period of time, we find that between say 2004 is the figure over here, between roughly after 2000, our fraternity has been shrinking. We have almost from 2,000 banks almost, we have come down to 1,500 banks. So it's not about, it may be through an area of mergers, amalgamations. This is a policy which is being pushed forward over there. But the idea is that many of our banks are losing our identity, and there is in some ways a need. What happens is that if it's a corporate, it doesn't matter. But where a cooperative bank is concerned, it is not just like any other corporate. A cooperative bank is intrinsically linked with the community. It is linked with the geography. It is linked with the people. If it is linked with the people, this preservation of identity sometimes is considered a value in itself. You have the ideas of self-help, interlocal, community, mutuality, etc. And this is something which we would like to preserve. This is something which we would, and so that is a challenge which we see from the news events of 2022. Okay, so just trying to preserve our identity. Next is what has happened is, since many of the banks have been, some banks have been failing, licenses have been cancelled, etc. It has led, in the public mind and the public perception, there is some degree of it, whether right or wrong, we don't know. But there is some degree of a trust deficit in maybe with the DIC, when the DICGC has raised the thing to 5 lakhs, things have become a little better. But nonetheless, there has been some degree of erosion in the business that is being, when we look at 2022, these are the facts that we see, and this is a point of concern. And what is our challenge? The challenge ahead is how to build this trust. How do you build this, there? And what is the regulatory help, what is the regulatory, what efforts do we have to put on our part, and what efforts do we require from the regulator in order to bring this about, which collectively we need to be fighting for, we need to be asking for, to rebuild this business of trust, etc. Now, in 21-22, for the first time in 20 years, the deposits actually contracted. This is the data which we have, which we have over there, and we can see the asset growth over here. That especially it has been led by scheduled cooperative banks are the ones which have taken the biggest hit over here. So you see that that there has been some degree of contraction both in deposits. Thank you. Deposit growth, advances growth, as well as the whole size has been sort of, has been going down. And this is a challenge which we need to be looking at, which we need to be addressing, which we as key management personnel over here need to be looking to build and move ahead. And this is your share in the market sector. Today, your urban cooperative banks, where share in deposits is about 3%, and your share in advances is about 2% of the banking sector, which was much more before. This has come down, and maybe how do we reclaim this ground? This is what we need to be looking at. So, as I said, we'll start with concerns, we'll start with anxieties, and then we will see how we can move into greater, light, into greater hope, into greater optimism. Okay. So this is the actual. This is the balance sheet. This I won't bore you all with. We will get in. So basically, the challenge over here is how do you regain trust? This is one area which you need to be looking at, and regaining trust will have to be through your own efforts, one, and what you need, since all of you are over here, is how do you sort of lobby in some ways for regulatory enablement. How do you get the regulator to help you in doing this? And the third item would be, how do you bring about a better communication with your stakeholders so that, trust is in some ways also about, communication with your own stakeholders. So this is what this is an issue which we need to be looking at as we go ahead, as we are starting the next year. This is one area which we may be looking at. Okay. Third, this is again a news item. What I'm doing is we are just looking at news items and we are seeing how we respond to the news items. Okay, RBI imposes penalties. Now in 21-22, almost 145 instances of penalties have been imposed on UCBs. Now it doesn't matter what the numbers are. Numbers, nothing matters. What matters is essentially what is the challenge. The challenge here is what is it that you need to be focusing is compliance. Now compliance, it's very easy to say compliance. The problem with compliance is very, very expensive. It is very expensive to have compliance, and compliance expenses as a part of your entire spending has been increasing, is very substantial. So now you as directors, you as key management personnel should be looking at is how can you reduce compliance costs? What would be, do you outsource it to a particular organization? Can you all collectively look into groups which bring about, which can help you with compliance, so that there have been even talks that you have specialized agencies which will help banks with compliances, because compliance can be handled when an entity is big. Compliance can be managed. When an entity is small, he is pehle to छोटे हैं उसके ऊपर और तुम्हारे पर कॉस्ट आ रहा है, it is a little unfair, to expect, and compliance costs are increasing. Now, this is an area for which you can be requesting for both for regulatory help, and maybe whether the umbrella organizations, apart from infrastructure, I think you are going to have a whole session on umbrella organizations. So there you can discuss. But one of the things which they can perhaps also help you out with is, this is a question. As I said, we are not saying anything over here. We are only raising questions over here. Could this umbrella organization also help out with your compliance needs? So this is this is one issue. So this is just incidentally, in case anybody's interested, for compliance, etc. The ratings, I think 700 and how many? We've got 1,500. About 350 banks are in A and B+. The rest of them are below B+. That's as per the, this is the end of March 1922 position. Okay, and next is there is the profitability challenge. That, your return on assets, your net interest incomes, this is there. Now, what happens is, okay, you are having a problem with profitability. Now, abhi kya karna hai? How do you address? And the question that arises, which you all will have to be looking at, what is the potential for non-fund business? These are just areas which you need to, ho sakta hai, nahi ho sakta hai, it doesn't matter. But are we exploring what is the potential for cross-selling? How, if you are having a problem with the return on assets, how do you enhance your profitability? How do you grapple with this challenge is something which you need to be looking at. And incidentally, Nabard ka, I saw that there was a program which was being offered by Nabard for cooperative banks. That is program on non-fund business and cross-selling by Nabard. So, it's not that people have thought about these matters. This is there. How do you get into more value-added services? So these are areas. Are you thinking about these areas? This is where, as we said, we are not over here, we are not saying anything. All that we are doing is raising some questions for which you can answer yes, no, maybe, or look at, the idea is to find solutions. If there is a problem, is there a solution? Is there a solution? The solution may work, it may not work. But at least the trial and the effort and should be there. Now, these have been the anxieties and concerns, and now let's see, what is happening. I think after Madhapura, that was a long time ago, there hasn't been too much of good news that has been there in the thing. The thing is that, but when you take 20, 21, 22, there has been some degree of activity where the cooperative banking sector is concerned. There has been legislative changes where we won't go. You all know this much better than we do. A ministry has been formed, and there has been an expert committee, July 2021. Committee. Now here, there was a very important thing that happened over here, was that for the first time in 20 years, they have used a particular word, and they said regulatory neutrality. ये जो है, ये लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल किए गए हैं, which I think is a very, we don't know whether it actually happens, doesn't happen is a different issue, but the point is that they have actually used these words, which I think is a great positive where we are concerned. And it changes the whole situation, the regulatory outlook to cooperative banks changes dramatically just by a few lines here and there which we read in this business. So getting to neutral, this is a book, but we are just using it as a thing, that if the regulator even has a neutral to positive to a nurturing attitude towards you, things become much better. And this is something which I think the cooperative sector has been fighting for in every meeting, in every conference. They have been saying, "Ki humko, give us a neutral thing." And this. We can make the evidence for this change. You can see the change which is there, that in 2015, the language that was there in the terms of reference of the committee was to what extent would be appropriate to which a UCB may be able to grow. That means they were saying that a UCB cannot grow beyond a particular size. Now that business has, meaning there is a reversal on this issue. And here was another thing. What should be the benchmarks in terms of asset size capital for mandatory conversion of UCBs to joint stock banks? Now, this business, mandatory conversion, has changed over to regulatory neutrality in terms for conversions. This itself is a big step is a step forward. As a matter of fact, even on this, there was, I think, NAFCABs has put in a dissent note over there, which is a very interesting dissent note, which says that we need, this is not enough. We need something more, which is all right. Okay, so. And then you are having this business of, in 2020, you've had this umbrella organizations coming up. It was mooted in 2006, 2007, 2010, we had the V.S. Das committee. Then it's been deliberated for a long time. Now, how this works out, how it helps you is another issue. Now, this is the situation, the way 2022 panned out. Next is all of us over here are sort of key management personnel directors. So, what is the value that we are bringing? All of us over here, what is it that we ought to be doing and we ought to be seeing? One is understanding the internal challenges. Next, what are the external challenges and what is the external environment? Third is understanding risk and opportunity and reviewing business strategy. Basic thing is, for all of us, is are we switched onto what is happening, or are we not switched onto क्या हो रहा है, दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है, regulations में क्या हो रहा है, हम कहाँ हैं और हमें कहाँ जाना है. This is basically what, the small little things can be done by the managers, but you people over here would need to be looking at, the way ahead, the path ahead, which you ought to be. And the other thing is that, do you see it coming? जो आने वाला है, वो हम उसे anticipate कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते हैं, कि opportunities क्या हैं, उसका potential क्या है, और उसके problems क्या हो सकते हैं. ये जो चीज़ें हैं, ये हम लोगों को देखने हैं. Essentially what we are trying to do is all of us have to inculcate the third eye. This is asking too much. ये third eye तो नहीं हो सकता है, तो at least हम क्या कर सकते हैं कि हमारे जो antenna है, वो एंटेना को थोड़ा ज़रा enhance अगर कर दें, तो that is what, कि changes क्या हो रहे हैं, और what are the threats, what are the risks, what are the opportunities over there which we need to be looking at. Do we have time, or do we another 5 minutes? Another thing is that, we just need to know what is happening in the external environment. ये तो banks और banking का हुआ, दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है. So roughly, there is a huge amount of change which is happening. Everything is, every day things are changing, and society is changing, the way culture is changing, and your comparative advantage, etc., is changing. And हम लोग तो we have come a long way. But in our lifetimes, we have seen, which has taken thousands and hundreds of years over a period, we have seen 3 ages in our own lifetimes. We have been a part of the, when we grew up, we grew up as a part of the industrial age business. Then we moved into the information age. कि क्या हो रहा है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. And now, the information age is coming to an end over there, and we are going into the digital age. And digital age, when are we moving into the digital age? We will only move into the digital age when we come up with this, with CBDCs will be heralding the world into a new age altogether. And for that, we are very fortunate to have Mr. Dr. Roy in our midst over here, and it's there is a lot of foresight which the organizers have done in organizing a session on CBDCs over here. Initially, you'll say, "Ye kya ho raha hai? Hame kya lena dena isse?" It's it has implications. It has which we will talk about in the session later. So I will skip over this whole business of CBDCs. Okay, and now we are almost changing over to artificial intelligence, and we thought this is just a caricature artist जो रहते हैं वो बोलते हैं you're back to monkeys, but now from you are moving into androids, and you're moving ahead. But what has happened with this information age? It has implications. The concept of an asset has changed. Earlier, your assets used to be hard assets. The factory hua karti thi, we know, jo bhi accounting karte the, we knew what was the hard asset. Today, most of your things go into, who are your assets? Your assets are your people. Now, those people have two legs. And those assets can walk away tomorrow. तुम्हारी जो फैक्ट्री है वो वहीं पे रहेगी, वो कहीं जा नहीं सकती है. लेकिन तुम्हारा जो टीम है can just walk away the next day, and you are left with a shell. So the concept of assets has changed, opportunities have changed, and even the psychological contract, the loyalty contract has changed. Now the cooperatives were essentially based upon the loyalty contract. Now, this has huge implications where UCBs, urban cooperative banks, are concerned. Yeah, this may be कुछ कहीं पे हवा में बात हो रही है. नहीं, it is that तुम्हारे UCBs पे impact होगा, that you have been looking into who are your clientele? Your clientele is basically you're relying upon loyalty as a part of it. That is fast fading away. So now how do you reinvent yourself is the thing, or you will have to bring loyalty back again as a value. So nothing is lost. The battle is never lost. So yeah, all this I will just skip over. I'll skip over. So there are changes. The sum total of what we are saying in another word is that things are changing. They're changing very fast. And you have to be in tune with what is likely to, with what is happening. Next is there are certain what they call mega trends. We won't go into this in detail, but just do mega trends we will just talk about and see how it impacts a UCB. How does it impact a UCB? Now, global mega, पहला जो है वो fintech convergence है. Now, this is something which is happening, okay? Now, everything is changing. The concept of money is changing, which I think Dr. Roy will talk about. Can money should it be issued by government? Can it be issued by private entities? Should governments take it over? Should it be a central bank liability? Should it not be? So the idea of money is changing. The idea of banking is changing. पुराने ज़माने में when we had joined banking, we knew what was banking. It was defined in Section 5 of the Banking Regulation Act. Banking is acceptance of deposits for the purpose of lending or otherwise. Today, what is banking? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what is the meaning of banking today. So what we have moved is we have moved from funds intermediation. Acceptance of deposits for lending means funds intermediation. Today, there is a shift to risk intermediation. So how do we say this? हम हवा में नहीं बोल रहे हैं. This, when you take the balance sheets of banks, your balance sheet liabilities and your off-balance sheet liabilities, अगर देखो, your off-balance sheet liabilities are as much or bigger than your balance sheet liabilities. That means, now what is the implication for UCBs? Do you look into non-fund business for your, today, most of your business is fund business. Do you what are the opportunities which we have seen earlier itself? Can you look into other services, into products, into what non-fund business can UCB do in order? Can we have income and profitability from other sources? Okay. ये जो था, and इससे also what is happening is, a question that arises is, हम लोग जो KYC करते हैं is know your customer. All of us are sitting around and doing, वो form आया है कि नहीं आया. अरे forget about KYC, know your customer, वो documentation हो रहा है. You see today, who are your competitors? KYC should be to you. Know your competitors. And we don't know who our competitors are. It is NBFCs, it is small finance banks, it is fintech, it's peer-to-peer lending. Now, peer-to-peer lending, वो KYC कैसे करता है? They'll take your documents, they'll go by the approved rules, but the KYC which they're doing is they will be checking out your mobile data in a month. Where do you sleep for the majority of the month, days in the month is where your address is. That becomes your, the world is changing very, 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 very fast. And this is what, so your strategy is, how do you reposition your business? Now, you went into auto loans and cycle rickshaw loans and taxi loans, etc. All that has been taken away by NBFCs have eaten much of that, they gotten into that business. What was your competitive advantage? You had two competitive advantages for UCBs. One is your interest rates. Interest rates was a competitive advantage. You could give better deposit rates. You could maybe give better, rather than earlier you had money lenders and banks for your competitors. You lent at much cheaper than the money lender, and the deposits which you gave were much better than the commercial banks. So therefore you had a competitive interest rate advantage, and you had a relationship advantage, loyalty and relationship. Both these advantages you are losing. So you have to reposition yourself into your business. That maybe relationship business, there is a lot of potential, because when you go to either to a commercial bank, to a private bank, or to a public sector bank, let me tell you, the service that is rendered by urban cooperative banks is way superior, way better than the service that is being rendered by any private bank. They may be efficient, but the moment you have a problem, it's very difficult to resolve. Here, you get a personalized banking, and maybe that is one area which you can leverage on, or you need a little bit of imagination to see how you reinvent yourself and make yourself relevant once again in this changing scenario. Delivery channels here nikal dete. Next is, there's this we kept hearing the word demographic dividend and all that. That is fast going away. But the thing is that the world is changing. The world is getting older. Now there are two segments over there, which one is the segment of the youth and one is the segment of the elderly. For the youth, they want tech-enabled stuff. Are you tech-enabled or are you not tech-enabled? If you're not tech-enabled, can the umbrella organization help you to get tech-enabled in order to move into youth-friendly things? Then how many of you have given, say, youth, there is youth 0 to 14 years, 14 to 24 years. These are two segments. 0 to 14 years is essentially parents. Are you selling products to parents for 0 to 14 years के भी तुम्हारे बच्चे के लिए तुम थोड़ा सेव करो, जब वो स्कूल में जाएगा, कॉलेज में जाएगा, ये इतना पैसा रहेगा? कितने प्रोडक्ट्स आपने लोगों ने कस्टमाइज किया है? The moment the fellow becomes 15 years, he has got his own buddhi. वो 15 साल से 24 साल के बच्चे के लिए, what is it that he wants? He wants a mobile phone. He wants a computer. He wants, or he wants maybe to save up for his college. आप लोगों ने उन बच्चों के लिए savings as well as this thing products बनाए हैं कि नहीं बनाए हैं? ये पूछना होगा you have to keep asking yourselves these questions. Agar nahi hai, maybe the organization can make some, whatever it is. These are just questions which you're raising. I won't take much time. I'll just quickly end. And where the old people are concerned, are you all offering reverse mortgages? Are you offering retirement income schemes? ये products आप लोगों के पास हैं कि नहीं हैं? क्योंकि the population is fast aging and this is where the future is kicking in. तो ये चीज़ें जो हैं ये आप लोगों को देखनी होगी. Can you make a weakness into an opportunity? And even things like digital illiteracy. Now digital illiteracy, maybe today people हमारे age are slowly getting digitally illiterate, but that doesn't mean that it's only this age. Even the young people, say a person of 35-40 is getting to be digitally illiterate because the pace of change is so fast. Till now, you were looking at search engine optimization was what everybody was looking at. Now you're looking at how are you going to influence ChatGPT. So things are changing very, very fast, and so you'll have to see whether you can offer services to to make convenience to people who are not enabled. Okay. So that's what I'm saying, that urbanization, migration, etc. And I won't go. There are migration, urbanization is a thing. Earlier, when we were small, we used to hear that India is a rural country. India is no longer a rural country. There is within another few years, we are fast going into an urbanization, and that urbanization is taking the form of mega cities, mega regions, mega corridors. In चीजों में आप लोग and smart cities are coming in. What are the opportunities you are going to look at? Will you look at affordable housing? Would you look at water? Micro waste management. Big things you cannot do, but छोटे जो opportunities हैं जो आते हैं, are you geared to availing of this opportunities is something which you need to be thinking about. Then fourth item over here is another mega trend. This is all over the world. It's not just India, meaning that income inequality is growing. If it grows, हमको क्या लेना देना है? सिकंदर और पोरस ने की थी लड़ाई, तो मैं क्या करूं? But there is a thing over here to it, that as your inequalities rise, what has happened is that when did the idea of cooperation come in? The idea of cooperation came in the mid-19th century. That was at a time when inequalities were rising dramatically. Today, back again, cooperation for the past 20 years has not really been a very fashionable world. But today, with inequalities rising, cooperation may be back again the order of the day. And there may be opportunities over there. And one of the areas is, not just inclusion is not the word. You have to ask whether cooperative banks, urban cooperative banks, can be eligible for government business. Can they be eligible for mudra schemes? Can they be eligible for interest subvention schemes of Government of India? Today, I don't know, are you all doing that or are you all not doing that? I don't think cooperatives are there. So can you not? Can cooperate? I mean, this is for discussion. As we said, we are raising questions for discussion. Can the cooperative sector not raise this issue? Say that agar problems ho rahe hain, to hum bhi yahan hain. We are here for 100 years. Agar if some fintech company can get into these things, why can we not get in? So this is a question of how do you engage with the regulators? How do you engage with government? And wealth inequalities, I think most of it is, India has become even more unequal than any other things. Then there are other challenges which we won't get into. But here, I'm just ending it with one small thing, is it time to change the narrative? So the narrative today is, the dominant narrative is that the path ahead is converting cooperatives into joint stock banks. We are saying that you need to challenge this narrative. Why? Why should it be so? Why should it be so? So there has to be a question that the path ahead. Cooperation has a place. cooperation can succeed, and so this narrative needs to control. Give us the evidence. Why should? Because in the thing is that what should be appropriate size to which UCBs may be allowed to grow? Does size matter? So the moment somebody comes up, and a policy maker comes up with a statement that size will determine whether you will be a cooperative, whether you will be a corporate, you have to ask, does size matter? Now you look at show me the evidence. The first thing is that you show me the evidence. You look at Credit Agricole, you look at Rabobank, you look at Bank Popular or DZ Bank. They are huge, colossal, billions of dollars institutions. So if they can be cooperatives, why can't, at least the narrative has to be questioned. And if they can succeed, we can. And you take things, just one small point I leave you all with is we move away from cooperatives. The idea of cooperation, that they say that cooperation is, the idea is gone and past. No. Cooperation is an idea which today is more relevant than any other idea today. For instance, the successes of corporations, not just Amul and a few other things which have been, you take Wikipedia. How does Wikipedia work? Every one of you would have sat down at some point of time, you or your children would have used Wikipedia. Any of you would have used a computer which has been used based either on Linux or something of the sort. And all these have been done through the idea of cooperation, through collaboration and cooperation, rather than competition. And I think those of you who are interested in technology, please look up this Wall Street Bets. That was an amazing thing of how a small group of people can take on the full Wall Street firm, could be taken on by this whole Wall Street Bets by these people. So collaboration, competition, there is no single narrative. This is all your free software, and I think most of us are using a whole lot of these things over here. So this I won't go out to the people. So we have to get back to the basics. Cooperation, I think the time has changed wherein cooperation is once again relevant. We have to change the narrative, get back. All of us put up in our banks over there, Citizens Charter हम लोग लगाते हैं. Citizens Charter क्यों लगाते हैं बैंक के अंदर? Because the Reserve Bank says that Citizen Charter लगाना ही है. How many of us are putting up the charter of, the principles of cooperation over there? That buy-in you have to do. You have to get it into some degree of passion. And all that you are asking the regulator is only for a level playing field that is not asking for too much. And as we end, we pay our homage and this thing to the great people who have been a part of the cooperative movement. And why are we doing all this? We are doing it for the beauty of the dreams, for the beauty of the dream of cooperation. Thank you very much.